any? Have you guys ever met?
Yes, we are friends since a long time. Since the radio show, since then we are friends, and sometimes we are sharing some experience, especially for the Islamic manuscripts, which he has. So sometimes reading for him some Arabic inscriptions. Especially, I'm good in Arabic. That's guess what. So
really, me fool. I can do Roman numerals.
I thought English was your.
I thought English Roman numerals.
Oh man, thanks for your compliment.
Before we get, I know that Sherif has a lot of things to share with us. Before we do that, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the new movie that's come out, American Animals, and I'm going to just pop in an image of that just so that we can talk about it briefly. But before I do that, Francesco has a comment.
And I cannot read Italian. That's the same.
No habla inglés. At least grammatically correct.
In 2004, there was a daring robbery of a special collections library at Transylvania University in Lexington, Kentucky. And this new independent movie called American Animals tells the story of that, escapade. In 2007, Vanity Fair had an article where they called this the Transy book heist is what it became known as. They said it was one part Ocean's 11 and one part Harold and Kumar. It was a story of 4 Kentucky college kids who had millions to gain and nothing to lose. Well, they've turned it into basically a caper movie. And it looks to be very entertaining, but it also looks to be interesting in the insight. And I'm sorry, I got too many buttons to push here. Among the things that these gentlemen took, gentlemen perhaps is not the proper word, was an 1859 first edition of Charles Darwin's On Origin of Species, $25,000. Audubon's. Now there's a picture of Audubon's Birds of America. It was I think it's a 4-volume set.
Yep. 80 pounds each, I might add. 80 pounds each.
Plus another Audubon set that was worth $20,000 or $10,000. A collection of Audubon pencil drawings that was worth $50,000. Illuminated manuscript from 1425, $200,000. I think we've got a couple of pictures of that.
Tell you what makes me nervous about that is, will it create copycats? Like when they did the first airplane, the ransom thing, everybody, will this create more? I wonder.
Well, we'll certainly hope not. Among the other things that they took was a 2-volume 15th century Hortus Sanitatis, $450,000. That's a medical book. And then they tried to sell them. They tried to sell them at Christie's. They went to New York. They took a road trip, went to New York, and tried to sell them at Christie's. Well, the way they were found out was that one of the fellas set up the interview with, set up the appointment with the special collections librarian by email. He used the same email address to make his contact at Christie's. And so it didn't take the cops a real long time to figure all that out and to catch up with these guys.
You
Anyway,
think they'll
the
let them work in
story.
the prison library?
Well, I've seen where there was a these guys were for a long time were not at all sorry about what they did. There was an interview with them while they were in prison, and they were pretty cocky still. I think that's changed now. But I wanted to give a shout out to Jane Keoghan, who is in Michigan, and who brought this article to our attention. And it's an article that was in the Lexington Herald Leader in Lexington, Kentucky, in which writer Linda Blackford. Linda Blackford did an interview with B.J. Gooch, who was the special collections librarian, who went through this ordeal. And there's a link. You'll find a link in the comments for this article. Again, want to thank Jane for pointing that out. And it's an interview with B.J. Gooch, and really this is the first time she's spoken publicly about what she went through during that. I also saw that there was a television interview with one of the hi Jane. Jane has checked in. Thank you very much for letting us know about that. I saw that there was an interview with one of the young men who did this, who seems to have moved on now and is taking a different approach to life. But while I take that back out, I wanted to catch up here. We've got some comments from some folks.
Thanks, my dear friend.
And Dennis in Alberta, in Calgary, we appreciate you joining us.
Hello.
So, Sherif, thank you for joining us. We know you have a lot of things to tell us about today.
Yes,
what has been happening in your life?
First of all, let's talk about the movie. I'm not sure that security issue for the rare collection in some institution is not that controlled. If we go back to the movie, I've already read the librarian story. I've already read it on the internet. The movie hasn't been distributed yet in Egypt, so I'm looking forward to watch that movie. But I've stopped on a dialogue. One of the looters, one of the thieves have already mentioned that the librarian is the single biggest risk to the entire operation. And actually, yes, the librarian is the most one who can save the collection, because and I guess that the lady was one of the the reason that they have been captured, and because she know how they looks like, and that what happened to her was terrible. I think. In many cases, librarians have to spend very long time alone on their library for a long time, especially for small and town libraries and school libraries. They spend very long times without securities and without cameras and without even a guard or even a lock for that. That movie will put our hand to such cases, and as a government and as people who are interested in libraries and the rare collection, we should reconsider such security issues.
And I would imagine that that's at Transylvania University that probably has happened, and it is a, she said that that when that occurred, in one of the shots there, you saw these young men dressed up in some kind of costume to look as if they were old men.
Yeah,
but their costume wasn't really very good.
Discovered them, yes.
She saw them come in, and she thought they were theater students.
Yes, and she said that welcome, come, and that you are a student. She thought that they are a theater student and they are in like a show or wearing a costume. And they thought that they are hiding. I know. And next day they come in a normal clothes. I mean.
People have to have.
Unfortunately, they tied her and they just treat her in a very wrong way, and that happened in 2004. So it's not from a long time. 2004, right. That we are in a 2000, and we still in many libraries we don't have a security procedure, that kind of security procedure, which encourages such looters and such people to go and take whatever they want.
I think the movie is going to have a beneficial side too, not just telling the story and entertaining. I think a lot of libraries, as you're describing, there's a lot of small libraries around the world that just have their treasures out there because they've never been a victim of, or nobody's ever thought of it. When I said earlier that this could be, this could be dangerous because it could make people more sophisticated, in terms of, it should also heighten the awareness, I would hope, tremendously, for these small libraries that now know they have, we have a major collection. We never thought of it that way because they're not thinking of it in the financial sense. And I hope it does. I'll tell you what, I say this as a pun, if anybody, it's kind of a thing. What was the biggest mistake that the thieves made? If you were a book thief, go ahead.
How would you make that mistake? They tried to sell it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they tried to sell it to Christie, and they tried to sell it to a professional place.
All right, so what's the
For sure they were going to discover them.
Right, that's Dumb and Dumber. But let's say something, I don't even want to suggest it, but I know if I would never do it, but I like to look at life in other people's eyes, through their eyes. So if I was saying to myself, okay, these guys pulled off this crime and got caught, what would you do? And the answer should be very obvious to anybody that's, what would you do to have not gotten caught? Breakers. It would be a tragedy, but breakers. I don't even want to say it too loud.
I don't like to think about it. No.
Yeah, I know.
It's a horrible thing to say.
Well, I mean,
even I cannot go further to think about doing something like that. Actually, it's a terrible thing. And you know what? Unfortunately, nowadays, a lot of things which is happening in Syria, probably know that what are that ICE is doing for the the treasures, the collections, which has been already stolen from the museums and so on. They're trying to sell them, but the sad part is a lot of people and a lot of dealers are buying such treasures. And I've already made a discussion with some of kind of such places, and they have a thought like, if we did not buy them, he thinking that they are saving it. If we do, if he is thinking, or that kind of thinking is, if we are not going to buy that, they're going to destroy it. But I think they are encouraging them to still more.
You're right.
It's
greed.
like a
It's
circle.
greed. It's
Yes.
greed. And I got a question. This has always baffled me, and especially with what's going on there now. What happens to these pieces? Let's say, for argument's sake, it's a stolen piece. It goes along a shady trail, and then it gets buried in some greedy collector's collection, never to be seen by humanity again. What does this guy do? Sit around in his underwear with his girlfriend and, dance around it or something? You can't even really enjoy it. It's such a sick mind that would do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. So the whole universe, all institutions, like all the like conservation institutions and other heritage institution, should making like a ban for such treasure selling across countries or across the world. Even here in Egypt, we've already faced a problem during the revolution. A lot of our collection has been traveled outside and has been sold to another party. It should be, we should have a law against such action.
What was the solution? Did you have a fund that if the material was, highly, highly important, you acquired it?
Actually, I don't know. I don't have like a solution inside my mind now, but it may be a law against doing such action. And nowadays, that if you have like as I've already mentioned before, they are a thief and they are looters, and they are taking treasures, whatever it's a rare books, manuscripts, or architectures or whatever, and they are selling it outside. And they found some people, and guess what? Not only greedy and hidden people are buying such objects. You will find a professional and well-known institution trying to buy such object, in a concept of that they are trying to save such objects. They are trying to, otherwise they're going to destroy it.
Hobby Lobby got nailed.
Ultimately, they do save it, but at what cost in encouraging other things like that?
And opposite, they are encouraging such action. If they did not find someone to buy, they will not going to take it. It will be useless even to just take it or just to steal it.
And there's another end of that too. There's as of late, I've noticed a lot of people posting things and talking antiques, enough to catch my mind's eye, where obviously they're forgeries, of material from the Middle East, manuscripts and things like that they're trying to sell, but they're just fraudulent reproductions because they think there's a market, because people unfortunately are marketing in these stolen antiquities. So nothing but bad comes from the bad. It's unfortunate.
Sherif, what
the connection wasn't clear. I didn't hear you clearly. It was a little bit cutting.
Nothing major. Go ahead, Alan.
At your library, something like this could take place or not take place?
I would say it's impossible to have such a robbery, but nothing is impossible for the for the this type of thinking. For an
But
instant, that
it would be a great deal more complicated, I would guess.
yes, it will be
security measures
very complicated. Yes, at the Public Alexandria Library, it will be very complicated to even thinking about doing such robbery on the. Even if you're trying to take a page, it will not be that easy to do such. I'm talking about the rare book and the special collection, because it's much more higher secure. All the collections are secured, but for the rare books and incunables and the manuscripts are much more higher secured, and we have a procedure for even displaying and even giving that object to people to read. For sure, we are monitoring all the collections through radio frequency identification, which is our RFID cards, which has been put inside all the collection to make it easy to monitor the collection and to audit the collection. For the auditing process, during the auditing process, you will discover a lot of things which is I mean for other institution, and it's not easy to make like an auditing for 1 million or 3 million object on the shelves in 1 day or 3 days or 1 month as well, and regularly. But using that radio frequency identification, which use radio signal, you can just by a device, you can just monitor and handle.
What's the cost of that, Sherif? Is there a cost per book for that? What is the cost? And if there's a way you can give it to me in euros or pounds, what is the price?
I'm not sure about the cost of the whole process, because it's not only radio frequency identification that we have, but we have cameras and locks.
That I understand. I was wondering if there was a breakdown on what it costs for the unit that goes into each book. I'm presuming that's what you're talking about. There's a tiny RFI chip in each book of importance. So I was curious
what is the cost of the chip?
Yeah,
the cost of the chip.
Yeah.
The chip cost it's cents, maybe it's 15 cents or something like that.
Okay.
It's not costly for the chip. Yes,
it's all the other equipment around
it's not. Yes, it's not that costly.
Jane Keoghan has shared with us that the year that Jess was placed in the National Collegiate Book Collecting Contest in 2012, that the keynote speech was about fakes and forgeries. And in fact, didn't you just do a class in that at Colorado?
About to.
Thorne, or you're about to?
Actually, it's not Colorado. It's University of Virginia, and I'll be doing it in about 3 weeks. Colorado's it's cabs, yeah. The UVA.
You're doing a class there at in Virginia.
Yeah, it's going to be on forgery, and it's kind of interesting because I've been having to do some background reading, and I'd be really curious to know what Sherif has to say about this. But we have found in some of our museums and stuff, provenance, the background of where something comes from. But we're starting to find in some places well done forgeries that were done a long time ago, and yet have been at major institutions. I'm not going to pick any names here because it gets a little embarrassing to some people. But do you think you have that issue too, Sherif, in your world, if you will, of hundreds of your old forgeries, but because they've been at a spectacular museum, a prestigious collection, the Saudi royal family or something like that, and all of a sudden that comes up not so much stolen, but as a forgery, or at least questionable. Have you run into much of that? So not intentionally stolen, but intentionally modified or faked or doctored up, something along that. Does that occur? Oh,
Let me say it a different way. Sherif, amongst your older materials, do you ever, every once in a while, find out that something you might have from the 15th, 16th, 17th century or something like that is actually a forgery, and you've had it for, or the collection has had it for years, and then suddenly you find out it's a forgery in your collection? Does that happen to you at any?
Maybe I didn't get you in a clear way. You mean that we discovered earlier on a rare collection which we have never discovered before?
Yeah, somehow I'll give you an example. There was
Yes.
an art museum. It was a lady, a monograph type museum. They had a couple of hundred. They had a couple of hundred paintings by this artist, and then a group of experts went through the museum. This museum had been in existence for a long time. 82 of those paintings in that museum were deemed forgeries of works by these artists. Do you ever find that some item in your collections in Alexandria are forgeries that have been in the collection for a long time, and then suddenly someone did some research on it and found out, hey, we got a problem here?
Yes.
Now
Yes,
you
it
got it. I
happens,
could tell
but
by the laugh. Okay.
yes, it happens. But as you know, that the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, it's 15 years old, so it's a new library, and we meant to making categories and making cataloging for all the collection before putting it inside the library during the donation period and during the acquisition time. So most of the collection, the catalogers know what is the value of the collection. But actually, yes, it happens. Sometimes you find on your collection something which you have already never think that it is that rare, especially in the. It happens in one of our conservation project. It was an external conservation project, which is maybe talking on about earlier on. We have already discovered an inscription on a cover, in a wooden cover for a very earlier manuscript, which is not exist now. We discover it during the conservation process. It will never be discovered unless we go through the conservation process. And I already know that some paintings during the multispectral imaging process, you can read under the underlayer, the under painting layer. So you will discover it is a painting for a famous or a rare painter, which has been taken and repainted again for an unknown person. So you have a rare one under a normal one. It happens in the Bibliotheca Alexandrina. Sometimes we found a rare, some of our collection which is that hasn't been spotted on the right way.
That's
But
the opposite of that. I got to
it's
say
not
something.
common.
Richard Minsky put up a post, and I got to say, Sherif, we love you. I know my wife has said this, but I remember when you and I first met through Matt Mina. Matt Mina introduced us, and I don't remember what the number was, but you were saying, come on, I only need one more number to get to 500 or something like that. And now
Yeah.
you're at 4,759, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you for what you do.
Thanks.
Thank you for what you do in sharing. We're all in that. We love what we do and we love to share it.
Yes,
Richard,
actually, yeah.
thanks for that. Thank you for that moment. And if you all want to, copy down this link, if you want to learn
Yes,
anything in the
Bookbinding.
wonderful world of restoration and see some of the most phenomenal laboratory equipment a restorer could ever want to wish to work with.
Thank you, Richard.
You've got
Thank
to
you
do
for
it.
your comment.
Thorn.
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
we were talking before about the languages, the different accents and stuff. But I was just kind of curious. Uh, I know you have a lot of manuscripts, which is becoming somewhat of an interest of my own. And do you detect in the Arabic writing, the Arabic manuscripts, a
Sally, my
over?
colleague, giving me a thumb up. Thank you, Sally.
Yeah. Do you discover a lot of changes in
Ehab as well.
the
He's one of my colleagues as well. Thank you,
okay.
It's a
Good.
family affair.
But I'm not so sure that Sherif can hear me, Steve. It doesn't seem to be going through.
Go ahead.
Uh,
Start it over. Start it over a little slow.
I don't know that some screens are dark. I don't know, but we're still on, right?
Yeah, oh no, we're fine.
Ah.
We're fine. You know, if there's a problem, it might be in their servers. It's not with us. We are 5x5 broadcasting. Thorn, you were asking Sherif something about manuscripts, and I don't think the whole question got out.
Oh, I was just curious.
Yes.
I mean, we were talking about the manuscripts.
Some of my manuscripts.
Go ahead. Let Thorn ask you the question. Go ahead, Thorn.
Who?
Thorn.
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I don't think he's seeing me, Steve.
Sherif, I'm sorry to do this. You see me. Do you see Thorn?
No, I see you only.
Okay, and do you hear Thorn?
Oh, no.
No. Thorn, go out and come back. That's the best thing I can tell you. I'm not sure what Thorn was going to be asking you about manuscripts, but I could come up with 10,000 questions, even though we've only got 4 more minutes. Of all your projects that you've worked on to date, what was your favorite restoration project? Give us a little bit about that.
Actually, we are running through some external project on the Bibliotheca Alexandrina Conservation Lab. We've already done a lot of external conservation projects. I know that the time is not suitable. We've already talked a lot about the movie, but maybe later on we can talk about the conservation lab and its facilities. Later on, maybe, as I've already promised before, I'm not authorized to talk about that project, one of the biggest conservation project which will be done through the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, and it will be have like a big effect on a particular culture, Bart, which I'm not authorized to talk about now.
Wow, I love it. Classified information in the rare book field. Last time I saw that, it was on a military base. Do not talk on this phone.
No,
wow,
it's not like that.
Wow,
it's not like that.
Well, I am impressed, James Bond.
It's not a military base, but actually, no. Normally, we are not talking about, because it's a heritage which is belong to another institution. So we are restricted to just talking about objects before. It's official.
Is there a win on this? If not
Stephen,
a what? Go ahead, Alan.
Stephen, what he's saying is that if he told you, he'd have to shoot you.
I know. I will tell you, but maybe after the show. Don't worry. I'm not authorized to just give it on.
Case closed.
But
case closed.
once we've already announced and launched that conservation project, which is we are running now, and me and my colleague are working on now. Exclusively, I will just give you some pictures, and if I've been allowed to, and maybe some other videos to just work on it. We can go to the picture number. I've already have 50 pictures to talk about, but the time is moving very fast. We can go to the picture number 51.
Easy for you to say. You're not pushing the buttons backstage.
And picture number 51 will give us like.
I see the logo of Bibliotheca Alexandria.
Yes. Picture number 51.
Okay,
So it will give us an idea about how large is the conservation project is, and if you can see the figure, the picture is not. It's not on yet.
It's coming up yet. I am fascinated by this. I am really fascinated. I have some gut feelings about what this is.
But
I'm not
actually,
asking. I'm not saying. I take impressions.
Sherif, what is happening here is the system is very slow to respond.
Yeah, I understand.
So it'll take a moment or two to flip over to picture number 51, which I can't really tell which one it is, but it's got to be near the end.
Yeah, that's
right. Tell me what the picture. Tell me what the picture is.
That's the one with
Mary.
In addition, actually, we are now working on a conservation project for 100, starting with the 100 rare Byzantine manuscripts for the Patriarchate of Alexandria in Alexandria. And actually, that is one of the biggest conservation projects which has been done for such a volume of Byzantine manuscript. It's a 300 manuscripts, and we're starting with 100 manuscripts, which is followed with after that with the other 200 manuscripts, which make us have a very big and very large database about such type of Greek and Roman and Byzantine manuscripts, and it's a codicological condition, and how that manuscript has been done, and what is the material which has been used for the binding and for the writing and so on.
Sherif,
so we are working on it.
Sherif, tell me how far back from the end it is, or tell me what the picture shows.
Before the end, the last one before the end.
Okay.
So
all right. I will pop that up right now.
52. It's just to end it with that one. We are working in several projects, but just to give you an idea how that project is large, you can find the figure who are standing there on the picture, and you can figure how large and how mega and how big are that objects is, and how important it is for our history, and actually that one of the biggest conservation project which has been done in the area, and we will announce about that project later on, maybe in the end of that week, next week I mean, and I will be happy to talk about that project if I will be allowed to talk about it and later on. We've already running a lot of projects, but I know that we don't have the time to talk about such a project now.
That pile of books had to be 6 feet tall with 70 books per pile, and I could almost identify 15 piles times 70, and I didn't get down to the end. It started to blur.
That's only a part of that. That's only a part of the collection.
Wow. And wow.
That looks like, Sherif, that looks like job security.
Yeah.
All job has its security and the classification. It's not a security, but it's we only announce, then we can talk about the project, especially as I've already mentioned before, it's not our objects, so it belongs to another institution, so we have to ask their permission to talk about
stored knowledge. Wow.
That's
10 of the professional conservator who from my team are working on it under a supervision of two of the best conservators that I've ever worked with. My dear colleagues, or they know themselves, I will not say their name. And that is the only thing which I can mention about the conservation project right now.
Wow.
Sherif, thank you
Amazing.
so much for joining us. Can you join us again? I know that we have a lot of material that that you had prepared for that we managed to talk right through.
I would like to, and we didn't talk about even a single one.
We need a 2-hour special live with Sherif from Egypt. All right.
That's right.
Thanks a
You
lot.
know.
Thanks a lot. It was interesting, amazing.
We would be thrilled if you would plan to come back. We'll get together and figure out a time to do that.
Pleasure, for sure.
And I should say that our guest next week is Jeremy Dibble of the Rare Book School at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, and I want to thank everybody for joining us here on the Rare Book Cafe. We are the Book Lovers Rendezvous. We are here every Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Facebook. Rare Book Cafe is the only regularly scheduled live streaming program dedicated to the spreading of knowledge around the world about rare and collectible books. And it is for that reason that we have wonderful people like Sherif who come and share with us your knowledge of rare books and of the world of rare books. So we thank you so much for being part of that.
Thank you. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you, Sherif, immensely.
I am as you guys continue. I did want to put before we're already over time, so we might as well just do this. I'm going to put up here a couple of comments because I just think I want to thank the people who took the time to comment. So we're going to just pop these up there, and I'm sure they're part of Sherif's fan club.
Thank you, guys.
He has a huge worldwide fan club, and we can all see why. So I'm popping up these. What's on the horizon in the next couple of weeks for you, Sherif?
I will be available, so we can arrange after the show. We can arrange for another show to talk about the things which you've already arranged to talk about today. Maybe
the 50 plus images that we have available to show.
Yes, we can keep it for another show.
All right, that sounds good. I am.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to pop out here, and you guys talk amongst yourselves while I pop out here and put the credits on, because we want to run the credits before we close out.
Well, I am fascinated, Sherif. I am really looking forward to reading whatever it is that this mystery project is, and I read between the lines on something, so I'm really looking forward to reading, about it when it is finally commercial, where it's safe.
I just make some suspicion about that.
Yeah, I found a little intrigue in there, and I'm really I love when I've always joked. I said, I'd like to dig 500 feet down in the desert, somewhere out in the middle of the Egyptian desert near the pyramids. And, maybe as they said, we'll find, somebody's DVD collection, or, like in some of those science fiction movies. Maybe after we get to a certain point and it's backwards, it starts to be more advanced or something. Somebody put all those big rocks in place.
Yes.
Around the world, but not necessarily in 80 days. Well, this is the first time I'm getting hit by all the cats. Where's your puppy, Thorn?
Sleeping, where she does what she does very well. We tried to go to the beach this morning and got rained out, so she's
We got
pouting.
we got Shadow. We got Tiger over here, the gray, and Shadow, the black cat over there. You have any pets, Sharif?
No, actually, no, I don't.
No.
But because
Okay.
that my daughter, she has allergy against pets, so
No, that's okay. You got to walk them
allowed.
every day. I trained my cats to walk with me, so it's not a problem. But
I,
yeah, I
I
agree
love
with you.
cats anyway.
Yeah, well, like